Elon Musk and Tesla are famous and unique in the automotive industry, or most industries for that matter, in not having spent a penny on advertising, at least in the traditional sense. But recently, Elon has actually backtracked a bit and said Tesla should possibly advertise. Well, after speaking to several people in real life and on my Discord channel, especially one person who drives a Tesla Model 3 for Uber, I'm coming around to the opinion that it might not be a bad idea for Tesla to at least do a bit of advertising. Here's how and why. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So first of all, Tesla has famously said they don't spend a penny on advertising. That's a little bit of a false flag because obviously they do spend some money on advertising. What they don't do is they don't pay television channels and radio stations and the internet and so forth to run advertisements for them. That is true. But of course, Tesla actually does spend quite a bit of money on advertising things. They do it in kind of bulky ways, I guess, or lumpy ways. One of the most recent ones, of course, was the Plaid Delivery Day event. And you have to think that that is marketing, right? There was no reason for them to do that. Certainly Battery Investor Day was like that. Certainly the AI Day they did a couple of years ago was like that. So they have moments where they are doing marketing, and those things don't cost nothing, right? In order to do the Plaid Delivery Day, they had that huge track set up with all the cool lights. They had a stage. They invited people. They had to have security, whatever. So it probably cost several $1 million for them to have that Delivery Day event. So that is not a penny. That is a significant amount of money. But what they aren't doing is they're not paying NBC or CBS or YouTube or Google or whoever money to run their advertising on their channels. So certainly Tesla is not like Ford or GM or Toyota or Volkswagen or pretty much every other automotive manufacturer that runs advertisements and pays quite a bit of money to do so on many different types of media. So all well and good, you say, right? Tesla is selling every car they can make. They're doing great. Why would they need to do any advertising at all? Well, I think a way into this is to look at some Discord discussions that I've had in the past few days with people on my Discord channel. Like I said, especially one person who drives Uber, and he drives a Tesla Model 3 for Uber. And his handle, by the way, is The Wiz, and he's down in South Padre Island. You should definitely check out his YouTube channel. I'll leave a link in the description. He's a wonderful person, and he needs more subscribers and more watch time, so definitely sign up for that, especially if you have an interest in SpaceX and all the things that they're doing down in South Texas. So anyway, let's take a look at a few of these Discord posts. We'll start off with one that was an answer to a question, which was that a lot of people don't think that Tesla is an American automobile company. And so I asked and said, well, where do people think that Tesla is from? And The Wiz said, most people say Italy because Nikola Tesla, they believe, was born in Italy. Just a few think that Nikola Tesla was born there or near there, and that is where the car got its name from. So anyway, that's kind of ironic because Nikola Tesla is Eastern European, Serbian, if I remember, maybe Czech, gosh. The countries have changed, but anyway, it's very much Eastern European, not Italian. And so the name is from the person, not from any place in Italy by any means. And anyway, Nikola Tesla actually lived in the United States until the end of his life. So, it's a kind of ridiculous situation, but that's what you have for that. So then, of course, I asked the question, anybody else mention a foreign country, or do they just think it's not made in the USA? And he said, in addition to Italy, some people have said Japan, China, South Korea, etc. And then he went on to say, I did have somebody ask me who makes the car. I trolled them. I pointed to the Tesla logo and I said, Mr. T. And for anybody who doesn't remember it, Mr. T was a famous 1980s actor who had a catch line, which was, I pity the fool.
No, I don't hate Balboa, but I pity the fool.
So anyway, back to the post. They said, wow, they didn't think he was still alive. The person would have to look into it. I pity the fool. Anyway, continuing on, he said, I gave someone a ride that was from Austin, Texas, of course. I mentioned Elon Musk. He had no clue who that was, or SpaceX, or Tesla. Some people do live under a rock. So remember, this is Texas. This is a state that has both SpaceX and Tesla in it in a major way. And this person's from Austin, where they're building a gigantic factory and doesn't know about it. So that shows how, even though all of us think a lot about Tesla and we think everybody knows about it, a lot of people have not a clue about Tesla. So I followed up and said I asked a group of people what country Tesla is made in, and I received answers: Canada, South Africa, Sweden, Japan, and Mars. So yeah, Mars obviously was a joke. But the other countries people were really behind that. One person did mention the United States, but that happened to be my wife, and so she probably knows. But nobody else in the group, aside from my wife, actually knew that the company was a United States company, which is pretty remarkable. So then, talking about batteries and other elements of the Tesla itself, the Wiz again said, oh yeah, someone's comment tonight. He asked me what my range was. I said 220 miles. He then asks how many batteries and where do I get them to change every 220 miles. Too much trouble. So I assume that means too much trouble for him to change out the batteries. So I'm imagining he thinks of it as just like a remote control or something, right? You use it for a while and when it runs out, you have to like pull out the batteries and throw them in the garbage or recycle them or something and then put in new ones. So that's a pretty insane level of misunderstanding about batteries, especially given the fact that people have, you know, cell phones and everything now that have rechargeable batteries. So that would seem to be the obvious thing, but clearly some people don't understand that yet. And then he continued, well, I did have one person think the range was the maximum the car could drive in its lifetime, and you would still need to charge it. So why would I buy a car for that amount of money, a large amount of money, and only go 200 or 300 miles and charge it every 2 or 3 miles? And then he said, Tesla really needs to mention also how many miles the batteries should last for. And one final insane one, I'm still shocked with the guy that thought I had to have a long extension cord to drive it to the airport. So yeah, think about that one. If you have to drive like 60 miles or something, you'd have to leave 60 miles of extension cord behind you and then turn around and scoop it all back up on the way back. That would be pretty crazy. And then one final one, or the number of people who think you cannot drive it at all in the rain or it will short out. So yeah, what we have here is an obvious information deficit. There are a lot of people, and I don't know, I feel like a lot of these questions are kind of ridiculous, but again, you know, I'm into this kind of stuff. I've been looking at Tesla and following them for years. I was into battery operated cars since I was a child. I made a model of one when I was a kid in the 1970s. So, you know, this has been something on the forefront of my mind, and clearly it's not for a lot of people. And so there's a really, really big information gap. And this is the thing where I think Tesla advertising can come in to help. So the argument, as Elon Musk's tweet says, is to do more informational advertising, quote unquote advertising, rather than more emotive advertising. So if you look at like a GM or a Ford or a Toyota or a Subaru advertisement, a lot of Subaru advertisements recently, it's a very emotional thing, right? They show you driving through pretty country and accelerating really fast and people smiling, etc. So it's less about what the car is made out of and more about the emotion you'll feel when you drive it. So Elon is talking more about informational stuff. So more like, I guess, infomercials in a way, but you know, more like our car does this, right? And so it's a 60-second thing that just shows you how full self-driving works or something like that. But I say emotional isn't that bad either. I mean, honestly, it's a pretty cool and emotionally positive experience to drive a Tesla, and getting that across to the public would be a really good thing. And like I've said in previous videos, I've started to drive Uber at a small amount, and people really enjoy the car, right? They ask questions about it. They, you know, if I give them a little chance and accelerate quickly or something, they're like, ooh, you know, right? So there's an emotional connection to the car. I certainly feel it to the car. I've never taken care of a car anything like I take care of my Tesla. So I have a definite emotional connection to it. And I don't see any reason not to put that into advertising as well, right? So information is good, but also tell people that it's an emotionally positive experience driving a Tesla. And honestly, Tesla has recently done some of this stuff. The Plaid Delivery Day video that they just released is effectively an advertisement, and it's much more about emotion than facts. So what should Tesla do? Well, there's two parts to advertising. Number one, there's making the advertisement, and number two, there's selling the advertisement for eyeballs, you know, looking at it. So number one, making the ads, I think that's really a no-brainer, and that Tesla needs to do that. They need to make at least some basic ads to combat the ignorance that seems to be out there so much. These ads don't have to cost a ton of money, and they could be really helpful in educating consumers, including people who are buying the car, right? It could be useful for people to look at these videos ahead of buying the car. And yes, they do have some that they've got about how to unlock the car and stuff, and that's very useful, but it's too little. They need to have more extensive library and also longer videos about this, because all those videos are just like a minute long or something. So they need to have more extensive videos about it. So certainly that would help educate potential customers and actual future customers. Also, it can be there to combat the FUD or the false reporting that takes Tesla down, or TSLA, or the share prices down. So that would be good for shareholders, at least, because it would reduce stock volatility. Because again, people wouldn't go like, oh gosh, you know, how do they deal with these batteries that are catching fire all the time? If they had advertising that said, our batteries don't catch fire, right? We've had 3 or 4 or 10 million miles or something like that, or 10 billion miles without a battery fire, that starts to combat those sorts of issues. So what about point number 2, which is paying to place those advertisements? I would say that's a tougher issue. It's kind of a slippery slope, right? You might say like, well, we'll advertise just a little bit, but then suddenly it's billions of dollars you're pouring down the drain with minimal obvious returns. I don't know how much advertising really pays off for companies in terms of the cost for it, right? So anyway, I don't know that that's particularly valuable for Tesla. Plus, as the Wiz noted, Tesla can't make enough cars right now. So do they really want that much more demand? Can they even handle it? So the solution for now, at least, might be to make a number of advertisements. They could be fun, like the Plaid video, and of course it could also be informational, and those two things could be tied together in one thing, right? That's decent advertising. So some topics could be like, where are we based, right? So it's like, oh, Fremont and Austin, Texas, and Nevada, and also for other countries it could be China, and it could be Berlin, etc. They could do an advertisement on how their cars are made and show the gigapresses and all those cool things. They could do an ad about what full self-driving is and what it does for you. They could do one about over-the-air updates about how your car is always getting better and better as opposed to other cars. They could do one about, check out our giant awesome screen, 15-inch or 17-inch screen, and it's included on every car. You don't have to pay optional, fees for that you can watch movies on, you can play games on. It's great for navigating, etc., etc. They could do one about their supercharger network, which I think is really important, right? How massive it is, how easy it is to use, and how you can drive cross-country on the superchargers alone. So they could do like a road trip video, right? And they could show people like charging up and going across the whole country. They could also advertise the longevity of their batteries, right? They could say they're million-mile batteries or whatever they can advertise about that. But they could certainly inform people that these batteries aren't going to drive for a year and then die off. And they could even do things about the storage space they have, right? They could open up the front and be like, look, no engine in here, so you get extra storage space, right? That'd be pretty cool, and a lot of people don't know that. And of course, they could also do things about how you don't have to change the oil or do other maintenance, and the brakes even last longer, right? It's like 4 years till your first service appointment. So these and many other topics are fantastic fodder. They can be done straightforwardly. They can be done in a fun way. They could all be less than 5 minutes. They can be 3 to 5 minutes or something. And Tesla can put them on their homepage with links to YouTube, so they could have a whole YouTube channel with just this informational stuff. And not only does this help the consumers, but it could also help the media, because if the media is like, well, we heard a story about, something about batteries or something about full self-driving, they could then go to this YouTube channel via Tesla's homepage, and they could find the video information in a very easy and easily digestible format. So I would say, of course, that Tesla should not pay to place these ads. They should just make a page on their Tesla.com page with links to a YouTube channel. And again, that way the information is out there if anybody wants to find it, and it's easy to find, and it's all in one place. It's localized. So what do you think? Tesla's on track to sell 1 million vehicles this year and to sell every car it makes, but there's also a ton of ignorance about their products. So maybe not this year, but eventually the ignorance is going to start to put a drag on Tesla sales, because the ignorant people are not going to want to buy a Tesla because they're going to be afraid of the unknown. So should Tesla bother creating fun and informative videos? Should they hire professionals to do this, or just make them okay with current in-house talent? And furthermore, do you think that they should pay for ad placement? Let me know in the comments what you think. I'd be very interested to know. I hope you found this episode fun and informative. If you did, definitely like it, because that's how YouTube's algorithm works. And of course, consider subscribing for more of this. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. We actually have 4 new Patreon patrons this time. We have Paul Jamil, Eric Thorson, Jim Falbo, and Roger Debats, or Debats. Welcome to all of you, and of course, if you're interested in joining in on the fun and the Discord discussions and everything else, check out the link in the description. And for those of you interested in investing, check out Webull, an amazing platform for buying and selling stocks, and now cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and others. Open an account and get a free stock valued at up to $200, and fund your account and get another free stock valued at up to $1,600. Check out the link in the description and help the channel at the same time. Thank you. And don't forget about our merch store, which now has physics is the law, everything else is a recommendation, which is a quote by Elon Musk, as well as other t-shirts, mugs, tumblers, etc., etc. Check it out in the description. And finally, don't forget we are both Tesla and Amazon affiliates. If you look in the description, you can see how going shopping for a car, a solar roof, a battery pack, or anything on Amazon helps out the channel. And as always, feel free to ask me questions in the comments, or leave me comments about what you think about this advertising thing in the comments, or at my email address, which is drknowitallknows@gmail.com. Till next time. Bye-bye.